Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Dolson, and for the final case study of the year, I plan on talking about the country of Bolivia. Over the entire semester, I have learned so much information about Latin American countries, their cultures, and their history. However, after further research, I decided to choose the country of Bolivia because I found many interesting facts and details that I didn't know about it before coming into this course. I am very excited to share some of those interesting facts that I found, and I am presenting this as my final case study of the year. So, for the overview of the presentation, the first thing I am planning on talking about is some general information about Bolivia, some quick facts and just details about the country. Next, I plan on diving into the politics and the economy of Bolivia, and listing some of the exports and stuff like that, why it makes Bolivia so popular. Another thing I want to talk about is the cuisine and food of Bolivia, and why many people like the food in Bolivia, what are traditional meals there. Next, I was going to talk about migration relating to Bolivia, like why people come to Bolivia or why Bolivians decide to leave Bolivia and immigrate to another country. And lastly, I plan on concluding my presentation with a basic summary of Bolivia and how I did in this presentation. Before I dive into the three specific topics that I chose to include in the presentation, I want to talk about some general information on Bolivia. Bolivia is located in the central part of South America and it is landlocked. This means that Bolivia does not border any type or body of water, but more specifically, it doesn't have access to an ocean. Bolivia is bounded to the north and northeast by Brazil, Peru in the northwest, in the south by Argentina, in the west by Paraguay, and Chile in the southwest. The landscape of Bolivia consists of mountains, valleys, and low plains. All year round, the weather of Bolivia can vary depending on the location where you are. There are lands in Bolivia where the rainfalls are constant all year round and it is very hot and tropical. And there are parts of the mountains where it is very cold all year round and it snows almost every day in the winter. Additionally, 2/3 of the Bolivian territory are considered tropical, so more of the country is considered a tropical area and there's more rain than cold weather. And also, there are more than 3/4 of the land in Bolivia is fertile and it is used for agriculture purposes. Bolivia gained its independence from Spain on August 6, 1825. With the help of Simón Bolívar, a national hero for many Latin American countries fighting for independence against the Spanish, he helped Bolivia gain its independence from Spain with a tough fought war. Bolivia doesn't have an official religion, but the predominant religion in Bolivia is Roman Catholic. Bolivia has two capitals called La Paz and Sucre. La Paz is located at the highest altitude of any capital city in the entire world, and the executive and legislative branch of the Bolivian government are housed there. In contrast, in Sucre, the seat of the judicial branch is there, and the Sucre is located on the other side of the country compared to La Paz. The Boliviano is the official currency in Bolivia, and the current exchange rate is $1 equals 6.91 Bolivianos. According to the World Bank in 2017, Bolivia has a population of about 11.05 million people. Overall, the population varies depending what city you're in, but most of the most populated cities are near the tropical areas, and some of those big populous cities include La Paz, even though that's in the mountain ranges, Santa Cruz, Cochabamba, Sucre, and Potosí. Lastly, I want to mention the main topics I want to talk about in this presentation, which are the politics and economics of Bolivia, the cuisine and food, and lastly, migration relating to Bolivia. Politics and economy of Bolivia. Currently today, the politics and government status of Bolivia is up in shambles. Recently, the old president Evo Morales had to resign from his position of president due to election fraud. Morales was trying to run for a fourth term in office, but he was discovered that he was trying to eliminate and take away votes from his opposition so he can get the guaranteed victory. When this was found out, many citizens took to the streets and riots and made sure that he was taken out of office and for someone else to take over his role. Throughout the history of Bolivia, the government has been plagued and affected by corruption and political interference, and lately this has been no change. Luckily, with the new interim president in place in Bolivia, the feeling and optimism of the people is positive because the interim president is trying to implore and emphasize the importance of having a democracy in today's world. Stepping away from that, Bolivia is organized into 9 autonomous municipal governments or departments. These departments are based out of the cities of Beni, Cochabamba, Chuquisaca, La Paz, Oruro, Bando, Potosí, Tarija, and Santa Cruz. Even though there are many departments, violent crimes and human rights violations remain prevalent and remain a serious problem due to the ongoing politics in Bolivia. Additionally, around 70% of all Bolivians in detention have not been convicted of a crime. This statistics shows just the amount of police enforcement that goes on in the country and how weak the police departments are, and how weak the lack of enforcement are to the people. Additionally, women and girls in Bolivia remain at a high risk of gender-based violence. Since there are not a lot of police enforcement, many gang members and many citizens take advantage of this and target girls for sex or prostitution without having any problems. The economy in Bolivia has not changed much throughout its history. In the past, Bolivia was held in high importance for its silver mines in Potosí, and while the Spanish was ruling here, the Spanish used slaves and the Bolivian indigenous people to export the silver from the mines onto their ships so they could ship it back to Spain and use it for their money system. Currently today, Bolivia is still famous and is heavily dependent on using their silver and other gems in exports. And now, Bolivia has included natural gas as one of its biggest exports in today's global market. Bolivia is ranked 30th among the 32 countries in the Americas region in economy, with a combined value of exports and imports equaling to 56.7% of the GDP. Sadly, Bolivia's economic development remains severely hampered by structural and institutional problems, all relating back to their government. Cuisine and food of Bolivia. Now to more positive and fun things. The cuisine and food of Bolivia is nothing less than amazing. The food of Bolivia is mostly all natural and not so much fried, processed foods like the United States. The traditional food items on almost every plate of Bolivian cuisine are corn, potatoes, quinoa, and beans. These ingredients have been combined with a number of other foods that were brought over by the Spanish when they were conquering Bolivia. Such of these foods are rice, wheat, meat, which includes beef, pork, and chicken. The typical Bolivian has usually a light breakfast early in the morning before work, a huge lunch around noon, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a tea or tecito, which is like a snack time, and then around like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then a light dinner, usually super late at night, around 10 or 11 o'clock. Now it is time to dive into more specifics. When Bolivians have their light breakfast, foods that are usually consumed include pastries, fruit, salteñas, which is a traditional Bolivian empanada sort of thing, which is in the middle picture. They eat empanadas as well, pan solo, and eggs. For lunch, Bolivians like to eat meat, rice, salads, beans, a cup of soup, and two main famous lunch dishes are sin pancho and majadito. For tea or tecito, which like I said before is like a snack break, a couple hours before dinner, foods that are usually served here are a cup of tea, pastries, cakes, sweets, and sometimes empanadas. Lastly, for dinner, the food that is usually served is just leftovers from lunch, or usually some sort of meat that is served with the rice and a cup of soup as well. Migration relating to Bolivia. The last specific topic I want to talk about in this presentation is migration relating to Bolivia. Sadly, Bolivia has approximately 1.6 million immigrants, and these people leave Bolivia to neighboring countries in South America in search of employment and better economic opportunities for their families. Also, migrants are highly vulnerable to human trafficking and labor exploitation. Once again, they are vulnerable because the police force in Bolivia is not that good, and they are known for accepting bribes by gangs so they can do whatever they please. Even though Bolivia has some negative aspects to migration, a lot of people do in fact want to come to Bolivia. Bolivia is home to tons of diverse wildlife and many natural parks and forests. Also, Bolivia is a very cheap place to live at, and the cost of living here is very low compared to other Latin American countries. Bolivia, since it is very cheap, has very good tourist attractions such as the salt mines, the Uni salt fields, which is a picture on the right, and the mountains are very good for hiking, and there are many other cheap and like tourist attractions that many people go to in the small pueblos or towns all over the countryside of Bolivia. Also, Bolivia is home to many music festivals that occur all throughout the year. These festivals are keen to the Bolivian citizens because most of these festivals incorporate traditions that have been played and performed by the people for hundreds of years, and these traditions and festivals attract tourists to come, which increases the income of the town, which overall helps everyone in the town, not just one specific person. Also, Bolivia is home to many cultural holidays, and these holidays are home to these festivals also, and these people that come to Bolivia like tourists are attracted to the holidays because once again everything is cheap, and they're able to spend very cheap money to have such a good time. In conclusion, Bolivia has many great aspects to it, but it also carries many negative aspects as well. I am glad that I was able to choose Bolivia as the case study project of country of choice because I learned so much information about Bolivia that I didn't know before, and after reading all this information and just looking at pictures of Bolivia, learning its history, I've grown closer to this country, and I feel like I have drawn a connection that I would not be able to if I didn't choose this country as the choice of my project. Lastly, in the future, I think Bolivia is going to prosper now with the new interim president and now with Evo Morales in office. And I think that the Bolivian people know this, and they are looking for a bright and prosperous future for many years to come. And here are my citations and sources I used while researching so I can make this presentation. Thank you.